So I think South Africa gets a fair number of economic and political benefits from being a member of the BRICS. We're the only African country in a group of the leading countries in the global south: Brazil, Russia, India, and China. We're a much smaller country than all of them, and being able to be there as the African representative, so to speak, gives us an additional tool to play with on the international stage. We get some economic benefits because there's, for example, the New Development Bank, which, for example, during COVID lent South Africa over $2 billion at a very favorable rate. So it has economic benefits and it has political benefits. It allows us also to work with other leading countries to look at how to make the global system more responsive to the needs of Africa. So that all of that is the benefits we're getting at the moment, at least in principle at the moment.
Indeed. So what is South Africa's legal responsibility when it comes to an arrest warrant like this should Vladimir Putin turn up?
So under international law, as a signatory of the International Criminal Court Convention, we have the obligation to arrest him and hand him over to the court. Under South African law, we have the same obligation. So if he does come, the law is pretty clear that he should be arrested. It puts us in a terrible dilemma because, he's the head of state. He's more than just a war criminal. He represents an important country. And so it's a very difficult situation. And South Africa is caught on the horns of this dilemma, and there isn't really an easy way out.
Yeah. People may forget that Russia was a very strong ally to South Africa during the apartheid era, and Cyril Ramaphosa, now the current president, was one of those high-level ANC members that got a lot of support from, well, it was then the former Soviet Union.
Well, it's important to remember it was the Soviet Union, not Russia, that gave the support to the ANC. So it's a different country that was doing that. Ukraine was part of the Soviet Union. So both sides of this war were helping South Africa. It's true that a lot of the ANC's leadership spent time in the Soviet Union and have deep personal ties and emotional ties there. And that is a factor in this that complicates things as well.
What do you think Cyril Ramaphosa, the president, is weighing up at this point with regard to how he might act if Putin did come?
So he's appointed a committee of cabinet members to advise him on this. And the reports are that they've received a legal opinion saying that if he comes, he would have to be arrested. And they're looking at various alternatives. One option, of course, is to do the whole summit virtually, so nobody comes. But that, I think, probably doesn't satisfy anybody. So the alternative is, or that the one that's being considered, is to hold a summit in China with South Africa and China as co-chairs of the summit. And that's feasible because China is not a signatory to the criminal court, and so they would have no obligation to arrest him.
Yeah, but then that would mean South Africa loses out on hosting it, but would be a co-host. Has there been any other precedent where a person with an international warrant like this has visited South Africa and not been arrested?
Unfortunately, there has. About 5 or 6 years ago, South Africa was the host for the African Union Summit, and the then president of Sudan, President al-Bashir, was under an indictment from the International Criminal Court and came to South Africa. And a group of public interest organizations sought an order from the court ordering the government to arrest him, which they won, and they got the order. And the government allowed President al-Bashir to essentially creep out in the middle of the night and avoid arrest. And nobody would like to see that precedent repeated in this case.
Yes, it might be harder to sneak Vladimir Putin out of the country. Daniel, really good to get your perspective on all of this. Thanks so much.
Thank you.